Hey guys and welcome back to a new What If here. Today we're doing What If Naruto Learned Other Clans Jutsu Part 1 question mark. So if you do want this to become a series, do say in the comments down below. And yeah, with that, let's get into this. So according to somewhat Naruto Wikipedia, or at least the one I generally somewhat tend to click to, there are 19 named clans. I've counted them, 19 named clans and 2 unnamed clans. And granted, that could be some Naruto era clans. So, yeah, and we all know Naruto somewhat is non-canon, so yeah. Anyway, also, I'm mainly going to be somewhat focusing on actually somewhat more prominent clans. So, Yamanaka, Akamichi, I forgot. Well, it's not Inuzuka clan. Don't think I'll do Amre, as they're going to be, sort of mainly obviously bug users. So whilst Naruto doesn't care about bugs, he's probably not going to exactly want bugs living inside of him. And someone eating his own chakra, which would probably more than likely kill them when he uses the 9 Tails of chakra. So yeah. Anyway, so besides from just that, let's kind of get into this. So when with Naruto, I was just when we'd see Naruto, well, he would be currently besides somewhat a kind of clans, or at least somewhat in a clan, but somewhat to kind of like dustbins, like somewhat, pick up area, whoever somewhat, picks up the trash to trust people. Somewhat they would, it'd be kind of around there, as it'd somewhat be night, and it'd be looking through to see if there were any somewhat jutsu kind of scrolls, as it decided that he wanted to learn some flashy jutsu, and yeah, somewhat powerful flashy jutsu, and so he was going to take it on, just somewhat to himself. If the academy wasn't going to teach many, then he was going to find and teach himself jutsus. And yeah, he'd gone through pretty much all of somewhat clans, somewhat just bins to see if there were any scrolls, and much to his dismay, they weren't. Yeah, though he was also 6 years old, and he was somewhat B5, not 6. Yeah, it'd be 5, and yeah. No, finally you'd kind of somewhat holding seemingly 2 scrolls up. So one of them read jutsu on it, the other one was plain. It didn't look all that interested, so he'd get out of it, out of the dustbin quietly, and would put the one with jutsu on it, to the ground, or into his pocket, as he'd open up the personalize it, say to the clan head of the Yamaha, though that's what it'd be read, as he'd roll it back up and throw it back in the bin. It was nothing really important, probably just a letter or that. He'd pick up the one that said jutsu and would get his butt back to his home known, that if he spotted around here, he'd be in trouble. And then someone getting back home, he would have a piece of he'd have he'd gotten another scroll, and a pen, and somewhat ink and that, and it'd been though there'd be paper seemingly thrown about, or at least somewhat over the floor, as he'd been practicing his handwriting for the past month or so. as it been about 2 to 3 months after they since they'd been starting to actually learn Jutsu, and specifically the transformation Jutsu. Granted, well, yeah, as he was still very much struggling on it, and he decided that if he can't do it, he's going to look for other jutsus to someone to do. Yeah, though some part of him somewhat told him that he'd still have to learn those to pass, so he was still somewhat training in the academy jutsus that they were teaching him, so that he could actually pass. And yeah, even though he'd rather show off the jutsu, so he blinds. Yeah, though somewhat opening it up, he would start to read it all right through. And yeah, well, it's as much as he can do with the he could barely make out the name of it, being mind transfer or something along those lines. He'd guess, and yeah, from there he'd read downwards, as there would be obviously blacked out parts. Though thankfully for him, whoever done it was clearly was shoddy work, so he was managing to read it. Though he'd also realise that he would also have to potentially go to the library and learn up on actually better increasing his reading skills, so that he could make out even the hardest to see letters, so that even if a letter will say say 90% say crossed out, he could still potentially make it out, potentially depending on what 10% of that letter was, yeah. Anyway, so he'd and so I need to read that the jutsu, or at least initially to start learning just jutsu, you must have, or at least be able to do tree walking and water walking as well. Naruto would throw his eyebrows and groan mentally as well. He'd just groan as try to control exercise, though he was somewhat intrigued, and he'd continue to read it out, skipping some parts. And yeah, though what he got from the scroll was that, or at least it was simply a technique that allowed you to control somebody else somehow, which, well, yeah, you rather it was first one, he was going to actually learn it. Though you'd realising that there was still more to unroll, he'd continue, unroll it, and he'd then state that at least tree walking and none of this was seemingly blacked out, so he'd be able to fully read tree walking, the that, and then below that was water walking, and he'd get excited. And yeah, and the fact that tree walking will allow him to walk up walls and on ceilings and that, and and water walking will allow him to walk on water, and yeah. And so from there, it would take him about a week, if not, well, yeah, I'd say it's still about a week to a week and a half, mainly due to the fact A, he's young, and B, his control is even lesser than his canon part, because remember that Naruto had probably done the something leaf sticking up, well, probably up to and exceeding 1,000,000 times. And also, you know, practicing transformation, replacement, and clone jutsu constantly would have increased his chakra control a bit. Tiny bit, but still a bit. So it would take him, with his somewhat reserves, which would be smaller, would take him about a week and a half. So say about 10 to 11 days, so a week and 3 to 4 days, to get tree walking down. Water walking already some, or at least some though, and yeah. No, I'd say it would actually, never mind, it would take him somewhat a week to do tree walking, as he'd somewhat have how to somewhat, you know, kind of do it from the scroll, so it would take him about a week. Though if it was like, say, you know, how Kakashi told him to do it, then yeah, a week and 3 to 4 days. But no, when from scroll, a week. Tree and water walking would be about a day, about a couple of hours to a day. And from there, it'd take him about 3 to 4 months to be able to, at least somewhat, to even do the something transfer. And of course, within that time, the G Clan massacre, something had happened, and yeah, which would mean that to Konoha there were 3 dead. It technically had 3 dead clans, or at least somewhat Hiruzen would. Well, in average, somewhat Naruto was like the last Uzumaki, or known Uzumaki. Sasuke was the last loyal Uchiha, and Tsunade Senju was the last known Senju. So, 3 clans were very much near death in Konoha's somewhat eyes. Yeah, though of course for obviously Uchiha, we know obviously Sasuke, well, 1 Sasuke, 2 his brother, and 3 I forgot his name now, Obito. For Uzumaki, ironically the same amount of people, that being obviously Naruto, not Rin, Karin and Nagato. Actually, and also it'd be another one, Karin's mother. She could technically still be alive, but she'd be dead by the time Karin gets introduced. So 3 Uzumakis. And then obviously somewhat Senju, which we only know of Tsunade. So yeah. Anyway, Saint, I forgot where I was. Alright. Yeah, there is something to know, because Naruto was somewhat, honestly, was interested in, somewhat, trying it, on a person. He'd figured that maybe trying it on, like a, bike or that at first would be something best idea. So he'd managed to somewhat kind of get a screw, or at least he'd somewhat managed to kind of trap his squirrel. It was still very much alive and could very much easily somewhat escape. And yeah, they would somewhat hold his hands out in the triangle somewhat formation, or at least he'd go through a couple of hand signs and then do the triangle somewhat, for his hand, and would somewhat kind of whisper out mind transfer jutsu, and well, yeah, and somewhat and so the next thing you'd know would be opening somewhat his eyes, and it'd be somewhat confused. He'd realise that he wasn't where he was, And yeah, so he'd kind of done somewhat looking upwards, the world would all of a sudden seem sideways, and he'd somewhat be confused. Though after somewhat writing seemingly the world up, somewhat with the clouds being up and not to the seemingly not the you'd somewhat see his body on the ground, and he'd realise that he'd somewhat realise that his somewhat mind transfer didn't mean that he could seemingly control a body. It meant that he actually became the thing. And though he'd somewhat be confused, because surely he'd be slightly higher up than if he was the squirrel that he'd somewhat trapped. And he then kind of somewhat realised that he was also sticking to the side, which pretty sure the squirrel couldn't somewhat do. And after somewhat a bit of kind of mentally trying to figure out what it was, and that he'd somewhat realised that, or at least somewhat, realised that he had 8 legs, and the only really thing that he knew of that had 8 legs was a spider. And he'd somewhat, after kind of a bit of slight actually truly right, going up and down, he'd then try and somewhat release it, and it wouldn't initially somewhat work. So after trying it for a bit, he'd eventually figure out how to release it, and somewhat becoming his and then when he'd return to his body, after really carefully aiming it at the squirrel, it'd become the squirrel. And so somewhat from there, as about a month would go by, it would become other animals and also learn what they could somewhat do. Say like a bird, would learn how to fly, as spider to make webs and that. And dog, its sense of hearing and smell. Cat is slightly somewhat similar thing, though mainly speed and somewhat agility. It's cat's ability to jump at least somewhat more like 6 foot, 6.5 foot, similarly. And somewhat into snakes, where somewhat they saw wildly different. They saw in heat, I believe. And so somewhat and obviously just getting used to how they how some different creatures saw the world, and what they're born with, to survive somewhat nature, to use them. And as well, he'd somewhat gone to the library to read up, to get better at somewhat reading and that, and he'd also learn about some of the clans. And somewhat one of them, when he'd somewhat read about clans, he'd thought about if the Uzumaki wasn't a clan, his last name, then when he became Hokage, he would make it the clan and it would somewhat be the strongest clan ever to live, due to the fact that he would know other clans' jutsu. Figured. After all, if they're just carelessly thrown away they're carelessly throwing it away, then, and somewhat if you could learn it, it was free game. It was a shinobi. Anyway, so reading it to discover about the, you'd somewhat discover at the very last page about that he was from a clan, the Uzumaki clan, and feeling somewhat betrayed by the old man, he'd want to just shut the book and, go, marching over to, the old man's office and yell at him, but he wouldn't. He'd continue to read, and he'd somewhat realise after reading it all why the old man didn't tell him he was potentially the last one, and what was the point when, telling someone you're from a clan when, yeah, you're from a clan, but you're the last one of them. And yeah, though, did have some hope that there were other people out there, but to, like the book said, from, or at least from what the book implied, he was the only one alive. They could have all, been died out, died and whatnot from the Third World War, the Third Shinobi World War. So, yeah. And though he would think back, and after a bit of thinking, he would go to the sort of third to know more of his clan's history, and yeah, when he'd somewhat go to the third and that, Hiruzen would be somewhat surprised to something, know about, or something, after, he would something, asked about some of his clan and that, and Hiruzen would somewhat ask, somewhat how did he kind of somewhat know about his clan, and he'd state the somewhat library, and yeah, he would just somewhat just nod and would somewhat that way kind of a sigh of relief. Naruto would somewhat kind of ask though why, and he'd state that some people somewhat may somewhat lie, so I just wanted to make sure that you didn't have like a idea of like your clan and it could be false, it would be fake, in other words. Now to just nod and he'd go, well, somewhat, well, my boy, what, do you want to know some about your clan, just everything? And he would somewhat smile and he'd start telling Naruto about somewhat his clan and that, and yeah, and so that would be something else he'd start, or well, at least something he'd want to, though Hiruzen had somewhat kind of state that it'd be maybe best for him to wait until he was actually somewhat getting in as somewhat being older. He'd be slightly more somewhat mature, and also would overall have better chakra control, and that somewhat with his current chakra control he'd potentially Acer may actually work that he makes, but it may seem to not work because it, the amount of chakra he may dump into it accidentally. And as much as Naruto wanted, to say, hey, I can, walk on trees and walk on water, Hiruzen did have a point. He was still struggling to do the, somewhat the transformation and somewhat jutsu, so he did have a point. Granted, the Shadow Clone Jutsu and doing the mind transfer, not Shadow Clone Jutsu, doing some learning of the tree water walking and doing the mind transfer had boosted obviously some of his chakra control a fair amount, but he was still somewhat struggling with the transformation, as yeah, and afterwards somewhat would ask him for some help on the transformation, to which Hiruzen would just sound like the potential mainly, or at least though he'd somewhat just for Naruto, and they'd somewhat tell Naruto to try and transform into him so he could get an idea on where he's somewhat potentially struggling. He somewhat would, and somewhat after doing so, Hiruzen would just tell him that he was seemingly struggling to actually picture it, which Naruto would crack his head to the side, and Hiruzen would try to explain that that the better he can picture somewhat what he wants to transform into, the better somewhat the the somewhat more likely it was to work. And yeah, Naruto would just somewhat not as it, though his would go well. Even though transforming into inanimate objects are somewhat known to be harder, I'd somewhat suggest trying to maybe try and transform into, say, like a kunai. And yeah, though Naruto not that would go great, but would I need somebody there to see to which he'd somewhat no, I don't need to go well, you can, somewhat come here. And yeah, so about once a week Naruto would go somewhat to Hizen to it should have been once a week, but Naruto would obviously somewhat, go there to try and get the transformation down. And yeah, and so somewhat before long he'd get the transformation down, and mainly somewhat with obviously somewhat Hizen saying I haven't wrong with him, doing the somewhat just a kunai. Once you got the kunai down correctly, doing a somewhat transferring into somewhat Hizen, whilst there was some slight incorrect things. Somewhat Hizen, obviously it was just practice, and yeah. Anyway, though now Naruto had Conan need somewhat had he'd somewhat had found from or similarly somewhat another clan, or at least the somewhat narrow clan, about how to somewhat create, or at least somewhat create or at least somewhat how to manipulate your own shadow. And so he was trying to somewhat do that. And yeah, seriously, he was wondering, he'd seen, or at least he'd seen the name of that, or at least not really jutsu, but how to manipulate your shadow somewhat a couple of times, but this time it was just the most readable. His friend, not friend, but classmate was lazy, he knew that, but, was he the one that did it? Or was, the entire Nile clan indeed somewhat lazy? He wasn't sure, and, it, was great for him, because, he could learn how to manipulate his shadow, and learn, and so more time would go by. Though finally, he'd feel comfortable enough with the mind transfer to actually try it on a human being, and he somewhat had thought about, and he was somewhat nervous, so he'd figured to try it on, somewhat a civilian, but maybe somewhat one that tends to similarly, or at least somewhat he'd, somebody similarly, somewhat one else that seemed to, be out, around similarly night time, and generally be similarly blank, asleep, during the morning. And so as somewhat somewhat morning would start to somewhat come, Naruto would somewhat go through, or at least they would see somewhat a similarly female, somewhat civilian would be somewhat going to somewhat apartment, and as she somewhat opened up the door, Naruto would do the just try and go hands on from my transfer, and quietly saying it to himself. He would actually take control of body and somewhat open up eyes and grabbing onto somewhat door handle. He'd to go, yes, you did it, and somewhat would, though next thing I knew was just tiredness. This year just want to sleep and that, and yeah, and a slight throbbing down below, but well, yeah, well, and so you'd end up going to sleep, and it would be the next morning when, well, not next morning, it'd be like about 8 hours later, he would wake up and would start to immediately kind of stop and would immediately know this wasn't his apartment nor his bed. Where was he? And so as he'd get up, he'd look down and he'd go, I'm a girl. That Bayo. And the memories from early hours of the morning would hit him, and he'd realise that he'd been transformed. He'd not transformed. He'd taken over the female's body, the woman's body, and had also slept, and yeah. And well, yeah. Though, as he'd kind of try and though he'd also feel another. He'd also somewhat start remembering something else, almost like it wasn't his memories, before long he'd realise that what he's now remembering wasn't his own memories, but her memories, the person who's in her name, what she did, and yeah. And somewhat before, well, somewhat long, next thing Naruto would somewhat know was that it'd be somewhat at the door. Yeah, somewhat putting on some shoes, and he'd be kind of somewhat confused and realised that the body was probably just on autopilot. Yeah, somewhat instinctual. And yeah. Though he'd realised that he may only, try and, actually go back to his body now. So he'd go down, open, shut the door, put some of the keys in the woman's handbag, and go down, and would find his body in the alleyway, deep down inside the alleyway in which he'd been, and he'd try and release it like he had done with the, as it was, as his cat, dog, bird, spider, all those creatures, yet it wasn't somewhat working. And well, yeah, he'd try to, but it just wasn't working, and he'd try and rack his mind why, and well, yeah. But somewhat before long, and yeah, though after a while, he'd just sigh and go back out looking side to side to make sure that he just kind of grab his body and would somewhat try and run / kind of get to the woman's apartment. Once getting there, would open and shut the door, dump his body on the couch, and then leave, locking the door to do or at least after looking, do some shopping from what the woman simply wanted the next day, which would be the current day, and only hours though. After that, he'd simply return, would do cooking, dinner, and we'd go into the room, and we'd simply get changed, because as much as he didn't really want to experience what was it like, or at least what the woman's job was only that, not kind of doing it. Well, it's the woman was pretty much living by, the amount she made was per night was kind of just keeping her from losing her home. She did have a tiny bit of extra money that would go into food and, sort of food and that, and yeah. So I had very little spare money. And, well, yeah. So Naruto would end up somewhat doing so, and well, yeah. So by the time the sun was starting to come up, Naruto would stumble somewhat in, like the woman kind of did the night before when he'd taken over, and yeah. And the woman's job, well, the woman was very much a prostitute. And yeah, he figured, somewhat, why not? He didn't know really what the woman did. And, well, yeah, they were somewhat similarly up somewhat late and generally didn't come out until late at night. Or somewhat at night, so the person clearly maybe wouldn't be potentially missed or that, and yeah. Yeah. And so somewhat from there you'd go to somewhat sleep, and the next morning you'd try again to get back into his body, up until he'd somewhat facepalm himself and realise that he wouldn't be able to get back into his body as he couldn't control somewhat to release the jutsu. It meant that the person obviously would have to have something in the chakra network activated. She didn't, so that would somewhat sit there for most of the somewhat free time the woman had to try and get her network open. And yeah, it would take him about another 2 days to find the woman's chakra and to awaken it, or at least to just open up the points. After that, and after somewhat a bit more, he'd managed to release the jutsu, thankfully somewhat at night, and well, or at least it was somewhat as sun was rising, and yeah, he knew he'd be in some trouble as he had missed more days than he generally did of the academy, and yeah, whoops, alright. And yeah, though from there he'd pretty much bar up the woman's he'd go over to the woman's window and would just jump out. Well, not jump out, would walk out, shut the window and make his way back to his apartment, and yeah, once he was there he'd pretty much just hug himself before somewhat knocking himself out to get to sleep, as well his body had pretty much been sleeping for 5-6 days, so yeah, his body was incredibly rested, so he had to knock himself out. Yeah, though the next morning he'd go to the academy, and yeah, after somewhat listening, or at least after kind of being grilled up, he's somewhat Aruka and missing so many days and that. And well, yeah, and from there, from there he'd continue to somewhat try take over people's bodies and that. Mainly as he somewhat realised that if he could access some of their memory, so one of them would surely know why they don't like him, or why he's not liked, why he's hated in a way, and yeah, and it would take him about a somewhat year to find a person that actually somewhat knew, or at least that could somewhat remember why. After all, it'd been by then about somewhat 6, going on nearly somewhat 7 years since the 9 Days attack, and yeah, and Riley wasn't happy that the old man kept it from him, that he had a freaking 9 Days fox inside him, and no wonder why they thought I didn't want him learning Finjutsu, because the thing on his stomach he presumed was Finjutsu. Well, it had to be, and that was maybe why, because as he started to learn Finjutsu, he'd eventually get accused, accused enough, and well, yeah. Anyway, though, he'd decide that he wasn't going to tell the old man that he knew, because after all, how would he tell the father? I know about the fox. How? He'd potentially be in more trouble. So, yeah. And so, and so even after he'd found that, he'd continue to jump from, try, different sort of people as well. Yeah, he could somewhat, and yeah, though and of course, he continued to, get a clan, similarly somewhat through this and that, and somewhat write them down as well. And somewhat before he knew it, he was 12 years old. And it was it'd be his his somewhat third time trying, and somebody knew the first time, unless somebody knew, that he'd he tried his, best to, but with obviously not really being able to do a clone jutsu. And by now, he'd somewhat learned of the 5 elements, and he could do a jutsu in all 5. So after all, it was just clan jutsus. So if a clan scroll had going, into a clan, rubbish bin, and it said jutsu, and you read it, and it was like a fireball jutsu, he was going to learn it, and he'd snuck into some of the Uchiha clan's library, which had a ton of fire style jutsus, and Sasuke was the last Uchiha, so why not, and so he did know a fair amount of somewhat, elemental jutsu, though he didn't know, though he wouldn't be great at actual elemental control, in other words, somewhat he hadn't practiced, some wind manipulation, like cutting a leaf, he couldn't cut a leaf. He could do wind bullet, and maybe something like wind style wind bullet, and some wind style dragon, but he couldn't, cut a leaf, because it was, wind manipulation, which, someone didn't know that, could get better by practicing them. And, though when Naruto was somewhat 8, he and already somewhat had found a scroll, or at least somewhat a actual readable jutsu scroll from the Hyuga clan compound, and he'd read many of the Hyuga clan jutsus, but they were always, he couldn't make them he couldn't make them out. So though this time he would. And while he wasn't exactly, or at least when he'd realised that for him to be able to do it, he'd have to have the Byakugan, to use it, as it was the 8 trigram 64 palm technique, the ability to shut down one's opponent's chakra network, to shut the Tenketsu, the chakra points. Even though he felt defeated that, he then felt like he could, though he was like, wasn't there a way potentially, maybe seeing chakra, was it, or something? He'd try and scratch his head, though he'd run off to the library and into the academy section, and before long, it'd be a minute or so later, he'd run out going, that's it, I may be able to do it now. And yeah, people would do sort of, some either sort Jonin, Chunin, Genin, Anbu, sort seeing something that run in, later run out, shouting that, or at least someone saying that, would wonder what the boy was on about. And yeah, especially somewhat more of the kind of Anbu, as Naruto was almost seemingly unpredictable. You never knew what the sort of child would do. Would pull out from, and yeah, and so he'd snuck into those sort and well yeah, and so he'd realise that with chakra sensing, that the Byakugan would be the easiest to make his own version of, in other words, bastardized, after somewhat all the Byakugan was mainly a chakra sense and kind of dojutsu, just a three-dimensional image instead of a two-dimensional top-down view, or a just beacon. I think, like Carmen stated, was for her. And yeah, and that did somewhat figured is if he could somewhat learn somewhat how to properly chakra sense something, he can, he has instinctually, as Kakashi had pointed out to us in some Canon Naruto, in when he'd scared the rabbit and Sakura had berated him, though Kakashi had used biochakra sensing, but we never got an explanation on that until Shippuden. So yeah, it was something that was probably used to be great, but well, yeah. Anyway, and yeah, so if he could see what the chakra pathway somewhat was and chakra points, then surely he'd be able to refine his chakra sensing enough to a very high degree that he'd be able to sense not only the person's somewhat chakra signature, but the person's actual chakra that flows through them. After all, it should be possible, or at the very least, if you can't do that, you should be able to at least see the actual where the chakra is somewhat coming from, which would be the chakra points. And yeah, so he'd at night snuck into the Hyuga compound, and he'd kind of snuck into the library, and after a bit of waiting, he could make the outline of a person seemingly reading, and so he'd done the mind transfer jutsu on the person, not knowing the person was very much Hinata Hyuga, his classmate, but he didn't care, or if he if he could even make her out, he didn't even care. And yeah, once he'd taken over control, which he did find slightly hard, but managed to do it, he'd after a bit of trial and error, he'd be able to activate the Byakugan, and after a bit he'd be able to get his head around it, and would be able to, and would realise that he had a blind spot, which he would obviously add, but also realise what a person, or at least adult's own chakra network looked like, and yeah, you'd mentally thank the person, and would release it with going back to his body, and would then make his way quietly and quickly out. And so from there he'd tried tried his best to do it, and he'd got into a point where he could somewhat barely make out a person's chakra points. And granted, his chakra control wasn't close enough required, but it also thankfully stated the actual chakra control exercises to do so. And yeah, while some of them were too hard to somewhat read, other earlier scrolls that he'd kind of kept had somewhat made them out. He could somewhat read them in somewhat slightly earlier or somewhat slightly later scrolls he'd somewhat found. And yeah. Anyway, so as he somewhat, was refining his chakra control, well, yeah. Anyway. And yeah, though of course somewhat he knew as much, even though somewhat he failed, he'd be on the rooftop, he could have easily, shown one of the many jutsus and he could do, water clone, earth clone, if he'd done one of those he'd potentially pass, but then he'd have to explain how enough he sort of learnt it, and well, yeah, he wasn't sure if he'd be in trouble or not, and he'd also matured a lot more after all, trying, taking over, adults' bodies, and with someone, an adult being a lot more generally maturer, generally meant he was also more mature overall. Also, he tended to try and aim for about a 50-50 mind transfer, somewhat male and female takeover. So, pretty much, in a week you do maybe say 3 males, 3 females, which would be 6, and then a day of training for himself, or something like that. And yeah, though it wouldn't be that much, but yeah, no, somewhat doing those did somewhat leave him with quite the skill set, to very much say the least. And yeah, but as he'd somewhat done everything from, or at least transforming into something, being some of the best chefs, cooks, waitresses, to somewhat the prostitutes, which, well, for say seduction and that, but after all, somewhat who's trained to become a shinobi, and a shinobi uses every opportunity they get to do, to complete their mission. They use everything possible to kill or subdue their target, and yeah, also being, or at least on the more somewhat female side, in prostituting area, he had somewhat heard from shinobi, men, mainly somewhat men, about somewhat how somewhat the ones that done sex to cope with their somewhat killing and that somewhat about killing and that, and well, yeah, so when I see you some miles Mario, he wasn't ready. You were never truly ready for your first kill, but he was as prepared as he could be mentally for his first kill. And well, yeah, that's all he could somewhat do, is be as prepared as he as somewhat prepared as possible. And yeah, anyway, though back to somewhat present, of course, somewhat Mizuki would come up to Naruto and would somewhat tell him about the somewhat the forbidden scroll, and Naruto would easily be able to tell that Mizuki was lying, but well, hey, if it got him a potential jutsu that if it had a clone based jutsu, then he would learn that and hopefully he'd be able to do it, and if he could, then yay, and if he can't, oh well, And yeah, so he'd nod and he'd somewhat go, and he'd trade somewhat, though, as he'd somewhat think about it, as time would somewhat obviously, then he'd somewhat think about if he, should say maybe somewhat take the scroll, read it, and wait for like the third, or if he should actually take the scroll, write a message, and then somewhat leave. And yeah, and eventually would end up somewhat doing kind of his sort of second idea, just writing a message, somewhat leaving but writing a message saying, hey, if you're reading this, sort of Kage-sama, you'd sort of have to write down, not old man, sort of, sort of about music-y, and that he was using the footprint scribes as bait, though he'd promised that he'd return it. And yeah, of course, someone someone enter, and someone had stolen, someone had stolen it, and you'd see the somewhat note reading it. You'd somewhat know the only person that could sneak in and casually take it and write something and then leave would probably be Naruto. So it'd go, but yeah, though I was Jonin, and that would somewhat come to us, what was the somewhat kind of calling that. You'd say that it was just a false alarm, and to somewhat go back, and yeah, they would somewhat just somewhat kind of grumble as it was somewhat late, but yeah, they'd go, and he'd somewhat take some and somewhat look through his crystal ball and would watch somewhat Naruto, and yeah, and well, yeah, though eventually you'd somewhat see, though the same events like Ken would play out, and yeah, and somewhat so from there, well, of course Naruto now didn't need to know how somewhat explain how he knew about the Fox music. He pretty much gave him that alibi, well, yeah. Anyway, so from there, of course Iruka would obviously end up passing him because of the over 1,000, well, yeah, 1,000 shatter clones, and yeah, and somewhat from there, they would somewhat return now to kind of get back the somewhat scroll, though Hizen would ask who, somewhat why Iruka had gone straight, to Naruto, not to him, and how did he somewhat know? To which, somewhat Iruka would kind of somewhat look down, and he'd somewhat state that, Mizuki had kind of somewhat told him, even though, well, yeah, though Hizen would somewhat just nod, though he'd tell him somewhat next time to come to him and not, to Naruto, because, you could have been lied to, and, well, yeah, Iruka would somewhat just nod and would somewhat apologise, and yeah, anyway, from there, after a bit more talking, he would somewhat let them leave, and yeah, and also of course the next day when Naruto would come in to do, or at least somewhat the morning, somewhat Naruto would somewhat go somewhat in, though he wouldn't do somewhat makeup, or that he somewhat makeup on that, somewhat what he did, somewhat or somewhat mature. So instead, somewhat his outfit would also be his somewhat kind of Shippuden somewhat outfit, so black and orange, though the orange wouldn't be bright, but instead a darker somewhat orange. And yeah, though somewhat the black wasn't even really a somewhat black, it'd be a somewhat red, a dark red, a somewhat very dark red that was pretty much in a shadow, pretty much somewhat black, and it'd be somewhat actually hard to somewhat see. And yeah, but in somewhat daylight and that, it would be a dark red. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. And of course, he'd end up, somewhat, kind of ruined. Well, yeah, somewhat deciding, to, or at least somewhat, have at least one more prank on the somewhat third. It cheats kind of Hamaru, the somewhat his kind of, well, would he still call it the sexy jutsu? Or at the very least, he'd probably call it his sexy form, or female form, prostitute form. Don't know. Probably his sexy form. So you guys can tell me in the comments down below what Naruto may rename his somewhat his the damn it, I've actually forgotten what it was originally called. Sexy Jutsu. Yeah, that. Some of what he'd name that. Rename it to, or would it just be the same thing? Would it be, named the same? Anyway. Yeah. So. Well, yeah. So, somewhat from there. Somewhat the, of course, next day, Academy, when he'd somewhat meet Kakashi and that. Yeah, though somewhat while Sasuke and Sakura would sort of run, try and run up the, obviously through the academy. Naruto had somewhat figured out, Kakashi was 3 hours late, so he may have booted up the, academy, and to make sure that he wouldn't fall into one of those traps, because surely he wouldn't boot up the outside of the academy. That would be, from somewhat what. Or at least, from what he knew, none of his, none of the academy graduates, besides from himself, could actually walk up the side of a building from his knowledge. So that's what he'd do, and of course, thus he'd be the somewhat first one up, and Kakashi would somewhat be surprised, though Hiruzen did somewhat tell him that Naruto was an unpredictable person, and that was pretty much more to Naruto than what, he somewhat let on. So don't be fooled by him, and, well, yeah. And so it's safe to say he exactly wasn't expecting a, academy student to, walk up the side of the building. Especially, someone like Naruto, whereas so he was deemed the dead last, whereas he was some of the, some of his, grades and that were all, bad at the bottom, but, of course, Naruto had somewhat figured that it would be a bit, well, not exactly odd, but by the time he'd started somewhat maturing to the point where he'd started wanting to take the academy more seriously, that also kind of somewhat made him realise that he could still stay the dead last, but still take it seriously. It's just taking it seriously would be to be underestimated, which would mean staying as the dead last, and yeah, so he did. And well, yeah, and so even though someone being called dead last and that did occasionally somewhat annoy him, but he'd managed to just somewhat ignore it, and yeah, to somewhat a point, somewhat if someone called him it, he wouldn't, he somewhat almost wouldn't even hear it. It was like it was just a somewhat word that it was just non-existent. And yeah, you'd see the person's mouth move, but no words. And yeah, it was like somewhat you could mute that person, you could mute words. And yeah. Anyway, though, and well, yeah, the introductions would go relatively the same for Sasuke and Sakura, with Naruto doing pretty much sort of a Kakashi, introducing himself like Kakashi, sort of, kind of, he'd sort of introduce himself kind of like his some canon part, but less somewhat, slightly less kind of somewhat excitedly or energetically. Yeah, well, yeah. though somewhat Sasuke and Sakura would just just ignore it, that was just Naruto being Naruto, but Kakashi realised that, again, Naruto was hiding a massive amount within, those things. Sure, his likes ramen, but what else? He hated the 5 minutes it took for ramen to cook, okay, but he somewhat liked ramen. He didn't talk about his abilities. Sure, his dream was to become Hokage, though by now everyone practically knew that, so yeah. It's somewhat, besides from his somewhat favourite food, he somewhat realised that Naruto, in his own way, had a, turn about him, with seemingly somewhat making it obvious that he was seemingly an open book. He somewhat he made himself out to seemingly be an open book, who was in fact or at least seemed somewhat private. What was his favourite colour? Oh, clearly orange, but was it? From what Kakashi, could see, the clothes, somewhat the seemingly black was in fact a dark red. And from what Kakashi knew from somewhat Hiruzen, Naruto did know of his clan and that, and that he'd potentially, if he still was interested in learning Funjutsu, he'd start to learn Funjutsu if Kakashi passed him. If he didn't, you somewhat would have to wait another year or so. And of course, it meant that Kakashi kind of somewhat internally kind of just wanted, to take Naruto on as a student. If they, the trio did fail, he felt more incentivized to take Naruto on, as while somewhat Naruto was, a very somewhat highly underestimated person. Sasuke was, the best in the academy, so, and Kakashi himself presumed that he was probably slightly overestimating Sasuke and Sakura, but he had this feeling he was massively underestimating Naruto. Not only him, but the entire village. Which would mean, the third, everyone massively underestimated him, and that, and he was, and heck, and and so, heck, something, yesterday, somewhat when they'd somewhat met up with somewhat them, he was starting, after that, he was starting to think about kind of them, and he sort of realised that Naruto would be really damn good in potentially information gathering, assassinations, somewhat, in and out, because, when it came to his pranks on clans, somewhat sure, when he was, younger, 5, 6, 7 years old, he'd get caught, but as he got older, those, amount of times he got caught was lesser and lesser. That, and also at the same time, as it got lesser, the pranks got more, seeming somewhat crazier. So as they got more crazier, more daring, his somewhat stealth skills increased, higher and higher, to a point where, somewhat his, all that times when a bright orange somewhat jumpsuit that was literally light reflective orange, so it would be the hardest to hide, which was what he wanted. After all, if you could hide wearing something that would, pretty much be a practical mirror, if you could hide pretty much wearing something, a mirror, then you were somehow, yeah, damn good, somewhat. Yeah. Anyway, so, well, so when, somewhat they'd, that, and also when he, told them somewhat about their, chance at failure and that, somewhat the kind of seemingly shocking that he saw in Naruto seemed almost somewhat maybe fake, or that. Otherwise, somewhat he assumed that some of it was real, and indeed some part of it was real, but he's putting on a somewhat kind of how somewhat his, like how he may have somewhat reacted, and well, yeah. Well, yeah. Anyway, though somewhat at the right moment, it'd be staring kind of at them as all, well, not all three of them actually. Somewhat Sakura would be the one tied up. Why? Well, because Sakura had been knocked out by a genjutsu, something she stated to be good at noticing, or at least, very good at sort of noticing and that, and yeah. Sasuke had been, too arrogant and had, be dumped him sort of into the ground, in which ironically meant that his head was only the one thing up, which meant that second Sakura met up with him, she passed out once again, and well, yeah, Naruto tried fighting him, did try to get Sasuke to work with him on a plan, but Sasuke's obviously some pride and that didn't let him, so well, yeah, so after those two got beat down, as Naruto was the first one to go against Kakashi, then tried again, and yeah, though Kakashi didn't know why, but he got a slightly suspicious feeling that Naruto was somewhat holding back, like there was more to him, he could do more, but he wasn't for some reason, and that somewhat annoyed him, maybe, yeah, though somewhat he knew, like, to ask that question, he would have to gain Naruto's trust, and he wasn't exactly sure how to gain Naruto's trust, yeah. So, we'd presume somewhat maybe train them, actually somewhat, train them, even though he'd rather somewhat mentally, prioritize their somewhat, like teamwork exercises, maybe actually somewhat, use it as, an incentive, somewhat advice, like use, like if you work as a team, you get some training from me, if you don't, then no training, just teamwork exercises, so it's a way out of the teamwork exercises and into more, actual shinobi somewhat, jutsus and, actual more physical training, that to get stronger, both physically, mentally, and jutsu arsenal wise as well. And yeah, anyway, though Kakashi would of course end up somewhat passing them by somewhat, Naruto and Sasuke being ready to give Sakura somewhat lunch, so Sakura was the one tied up, and of course somewhat from there, so the next day they would do a D-rank mission, then come back and do some somewhat teamwork exercises, to which Sasuke would somewhat, or at least somewhat demand, actual training, to which Kakashi would tell him, he'd not just tell him, he'd tell the three of them that if they want actual real shinobi training, meaning physical training, and also somewhat proper, somewhat, actual, somewhat shinobi training, so some physical, actual body strengthening training, and actual, some jutsus to add to your arsenal and that, well, you better start working as a team, because there's no I in team, now is there? To which they would all say that wasn't. And yeah. And so Sasuke would kind of get annoyed because they were similarly somewhat holding him, back, and he had to work with, somewhat his fangirl and, the dead last. It annoyed him, but if it meant he could get stronger, then so be it for now. And yeah, though somewhat Naruto, he wasn't sure if he should kind of tell Kakashi what he could actually do, or shouldn't he? Wasn't exactly sure. Sure. After all, he could do a good chunk of jutsus. Probably, well, yeah. Not really sure how many. I was initially thinking about maybe somewhere like around the 100, like 100 with the Shadow Clone Jutsu being the 100th jutsu, or maybe like 50 or that. Probably somewhat on the lower end, so maybe like 10, 20 or that. Yeah. Also, when it came to somewhat the BQ again. At least the what they called Hyuga, so the other Hyuga, the somewhat rotation jutsu, that allow their so-called perfect defense, or whatever it's called. 1 second. Yeah, so just 8 trigrams palm rotation that jutsu. Right. Naruto would manage to line it. After all, it was just somewhat dumping a load of chakra somewhat out while she turned to spin somewhat chakra as well. It was just a dome of rotating chakra that you were in. So yeah, that had been somewhat initially slightly hard for him to do, but of course with his stubbornness, Uzumaki's stubbornness and that, he had somewhat cracked its ability, he cracked the way to do it, and so yeah, you can sort of do that with relative ease. And like the 8 trigrams somewhat 64 palms, where the jutsu to shut down the tenketsu, that, well, besides on the actual chakra output, which he wasn't sure if it would be too much or too little, because Barry had, Namdi to, try it on, and if he, had to tell Kakashi, he could get, help, use it on sort of Kakashi, to really dial it in. But was Kakashi, was something, Kakashi Sensei, trustworthy and, sort of enough? And yeah, that he wasn't sure. So for the moment, he'd use the somewhat time to, refine his chakra control and sensory ability, sensory abilities to higher lengths. Yes, I'm known to him. He'd wedded this chakra, somewhat chakra sense into a whole new level. After all, to some of my knowledge, no one had made a free, or at least, yeah, somewhat, no one did somewhat actually make, had somewhat, in the series, had somewhat could sense chakra in a 3 dimension, in 3 dimensions. It's always either 2-dimensional or 2-dimensional, or somewhat, top down view, or just a somewhat, like over there is the next one, like enemy, like 10 meters away over there, 10 meters back, at like 90 like 96.7 degrees. And yeah, anyway, so yeah, though as somewhat a week would go by, of course somewhat Kakashi did train them kind of somewhat on and off, as somewhat Sakura and Sasuke were kind of getting somewhat a hand with somewhat working as a team with Naruto, as Naruto always seemed, was always the willing one to work with them, even though he would somewhat rather like better teammates. And yeah, though, oh well, and yeah, though, well, though another week would go by, and well, yeah, Naruto would somewhat finally go to Kakashi's and would somewhat ask if they could talk somewhat privately in a private area where nobody would somewhat be around. And yeah, also he had also started learning Funjutsu as well. Though Kakashi would somewhat crack an eyebrow, as it was now after that training period, as Naruto had stayed behind. And yeah, though Kakashi would somewhat nod, he'd put a hand somewhat on Naruto and they would disappear and would somewhat reappear somewhere else. And yeah, to which Kakashi would somewhat nod, saying that there was currently no one around, to which Naruto would close his eyes and started a couple of seconds later he'd somewhat nod, to which Kakashi would go, so you're sensor, to which Naruto would somewhat nod, stating that he'd learned to sense or figured out that he could sense or whatever. Well, yeah, he just somewhat nod at that. And yeah, though Kakashi somewhat would ask somewhat what was, he somewhat wanted to say very privately. Now to state that he had somewhat that he could do some jutsus that probably would maybe get him in trouble with some people. Kakashi would ask him what some of those were, to which Naruto would start labelling off the somewhat clan, or at least the somewhat jutsus, all the jutsus somewhat he could do, to which Kakashi, after somewhat Naruto would finish, would just be somewhat kind of stunned and he would just stare at Naruto and go, "You're joking like that, some clan, but how did you learn, clan techniques?" He'd go, "Well, somewhat, well, of course they somewhat blank, somewhat, they they make it hard somewhat to read, and somewhat some of the time they are hard to read, but almost most of the time they're somewhat too lazy, so you can still read it, or somewhat still make out the words." And yeah, Kakashi would just nod, and he'd ask how long he'd been kind of doing that for, to which not to say about when he was about 5 or so. And yeah, though Kakashi nod, though he'd go, "So much I want to believe you, you want me to show you," to which Kakashi nodded, so Naruto would. He'd start with the 5 somewhat elements, so wind, fire, earth, water, wind, lightning. And somewhat after he'd done those jutsus, he then did somewhat and somewhat before long he'd somewhat end with the somewhat Hugo doing the somewhat rotation, and yeah, Kakashi would just be somewhat shocked now to the what he labelled off he could indeed do. And yeah, Kakashi, I could see somewhat why you now wanted tell me in very privately. And yeah, well, Kakashi would go, "Well, I'd say that you can't exactly show somewhat any of them," to which Naruto would just nod, and yeah, I would state, though, why are you now somewhat telling me, you'd have to have a reason why to it. Naruto not only to state that, well, it had to do with somewhat a Hyuga Jutsu, to which he'd crack an eyebrow and ask what one, and he'd go, 8 trigram 64 palms, to which he'd go, you mean some of the techniques in which you can shut down the chakra pathways? To shut the Tenketsu, the chakra points, to which Naruto no, then go, well, I can, if I focus, if I somewhat of, if I somewhat really focus on you, Sensei, I can see your chakra, I could barely make out your chakra pathways and your chakra points, to which Kakashi would just be shut your, so surprised at that, and well, I've never tried it on someone, so I don't know the amount of chakra. I know it's, which Kakashi, somewhat realised that Naruto pretty much wanted to use him in a way as a test dummy, and though he'd ask why, he wouldn't use his somewhat shadow clone, to which Naruto would point out that a shadow clone disperses this, he somewhat, taps it pretty much to disperse. And that's why he could spend, time trying to figure out how to make it harder to pop, but disturbing its actual chakra point will probably cause it to disperse, which Kakashi, not that he wouldn't know if it existed at all, because it dispersed, so, yeah. That and Naruto would also point out that it was, his own chakra going into, so it would probably just disperse into, the actual network and not shut down the chakra point. And did shadow clones even have chakra points, or did they? Yeah. Well, in knew something they did, but because they're only made out of chakra, his chakra wouldn't affect his own shadow clones. Tenketsu, so useless, and though Kakashi somewhat nod, and you'd presume it would affect his own shadow clones if he, made a shadow clone, but again, it would disperse in a single hit, so and though he'd tell Naruto to try and use as very little as possible, when he went to hit him, and and also that he'd have to, work on, being able to, see someone's, chakra point, chakra points with, some relative ease, to which he'd nod, and he'd, to which I should go, well then, let's start trying to be, to which Naruto would somewhat smile, and he'd nod, and so, from there, another 2 weeks would somewhat go by, as, Kakashi made somewhat, and, Kakashi somewhat, it did somewhat help, it did help Naruto, as Naruto did tune, somewhat it into the right amount of somewhat chakra, though it did take, obviously it somewhat did, and he somewhat did have to really heavily focus on the amount of chakra, but again, the more the more he did it, the easier it got, and though, so somewhat mainly though, Kakashi somewhat had already somewhat Naruto mainly, once he got the right amount of chakra somewhat down, it was just focusing on his somewhat speed to get the to sense the person's chakra points. After all, it should be as simple as hey, I'm gonna see you thinking of sort of chakra point or whatever, think of something and having it immediately flash on, or going 8 trigram 64 palms, and having being able to see the person's chakra points, and And well, yeah, so yeah, though, and while Naruto still sort of had to close his focus, it was, instead of having to say really like heavily focus, he had to somewhat slightly focus. And yeah, that, and also Kakashi was also sparring with Naruto, having Naruto somewhat, having his eyes shut and also somewhat blindfolded, so that the only way he could somewhat see, even if he opened his eyes, was to use his chakra sensor and ability. The faster he could the somewhat faster he could obviously gain somewhat accuracy. And yeah, and well, yeah, though of course a month had gone by now, and yeah, so they would they would to drop off the Torah, and those the Daimyo's wife would obviously take Torah from Sakura and strangle it. And yeah, though Hizen would ask them if they'd like another mission, as they'd still have only taken 4, but instead of it being only 4 and only really teamwork exercises, it's only 4 and heavily, and by his third week they were more working together than they want. So yeah, and by now a month there was still the occasional just zero teamwork, but that was coming very little. And yeah, and while Sasuke kind of having enough of these D ranks, even though there were only 4, they'd only done 4 D ranks, he'd felt he'd done enough, and so he would very much verbalise that by kind of not quite demanding, but definitely having that slight hint of I want a somewhat harder one. And yeah, so it's his would kind of ask Kakashi if he'd believe his team was somewhat ready, to which Kakashi knew when it came to actual jutsu, Naruto was practically Naruto's probably had enough jutsus to go against an A rank nuke Nin and come out the other end winning due to the sheer amount of chakra he had. And that's the thing, he'd have even more chakra than he would at the current moment that his canon counterpart has, because training jutsus and that's using his chakra. The more you use the chakra, the more it grows. And so yeah, and that, and also Kakashi also helped Naruto with the mind transfer technique, more or less how simply trying to take over somebody's body when with a person who was fighting back, and he made it harder and harder on Naruto. And after all, being able transfer your mind into someone and come back and just learn everything about the person, not just the person, but what they'd done, or at least if it was say Shinobi, they had to either say arrest, Naruto could easily take over the person, come back, and they could have the person in cuffs, and that Naruto simply release it. And, well, yeah. And so by now he could release it, seamlessly. And, yeah, and he'd been trying to somewhat walk on the way without doing the, without having to do the freaking, triangle, as it was somewhat obvious. Somewhat that. And, with his blonde hair, most enemy shinobi would think he's, an Yamanaka and would, try something to, stop him from, doing it. So if he could, do it simply, somewhat without, having to do, the triangle and, still, succeed in taking, control, then so be it. Maybe, whoever somewhat, he was focused on, he could, his spirit or whatever, went that way to take over the body. And yeah. Anyway. Well, yeah. So, right now, present time, Kakashi would think, besides Naruto, so, Sasuke had indeed, gotten stronger, and definitely stronger than his, something would be obviously stronger than his canon counterpart. And yeah, though his somewhat arrogantness was still very much there, and maybe even still somewhat, and even maybe even somewhat greater. So he wasn't quite sure, but yeah, though Sakura had also gotten somewhat better, and well, yeah, he'd somewhat actually taught Sakura how to, release Genjutsu. And somewhat, and well, yeah. Even though Naruto did have some scrolls from the Kurama clan, which, well, yeah, because Kakashi, had asked Naruto if he had potentially, any sort of low, sort of level, sort of Genjutsu to which Naruto would go, I'm somewhat not sure, Sensei. And well, yeah, when Kakashi sort of went with Naruto to something summoned, someone when he kind of somewhat pulled out, or at least my sort of scroll, which was, Genjutsu sort of based. When somebody went through it, he kind of looked at Naruto and he went, sort of, no, those are sort of too that would be sort of too hard for someone like Sakura. To which Naruto somewhat just nodded and just went, well, sorry then, Sensei. To which Kakashi just go, no, somewhat Naruto, you don't need to, apologise. And yeah, though Kakashi did recognise that, a fair amount of them were from the Kurama clan. Yeah, and some of them were also, from the somewhat Uchiha clan as well. And, well, yeah. But yeah, Kakashi just, in so much that, shake his head seriously. Naruto would truly, truly be, probably like the ultimate shinobi, ironically, his own somewhat desire to, somewhat learn, jutsus and that, and also, it would also, once, it was, revealed that he could, do clan-based, jutsus, it'd also, hit to the clans that they had to do a much better job at, actually blanking out their scrolls, because if Naruto, the so-called dead last, could learn from it, what could someone, with seemingly Sasuke's genius level could do, yeah, or an enemy at that matter. Seriously, the fact that, they haven't fixed their security, was more than, enough to show that, but yeah, seriously, the fact that Naruto could walk into any, clan compound with ease without being noticed was probably more than, somewhat, more than alarming enough to, get their asses into gear to fix whatever security hole, Naruto, was, getting himself in, through. And yeah. Anyway, well, yeah. Anyway, though somewhat after a bit more thinking, he'd not going, well, So I believe that they're sort of ready for, a simple C-rank mission, Hokage-sama. He's made somewhat nod, and after somewhat a bit, he'd go, how about he sort of the escort mission? Escort a person back to the their somewhat hometown, and to sort of protect them. Kika should somewhat think of it for a few seconds and would somewhat go, can I sort of read it? Go inside look over the sort of mission scroll to it. He's would sort of hand over, and after sort of reading it and a bit of thinking, he'd nod going, will take the mission, Hokage-sama. Kikashi, his would sort of nod, and he'd go, he'd go bring in the bridge builder. And with that, the land waves would start. And also with that, guys, I'm going to end this part here. So if you have enjoyed this part, do tell me in the comments down below, guys. And of course, if you want part 2, do say. And yeah, guys, hope you guys have a good day or night, depending on wherever you are and whenever you watch this. And good bye.